For generations, Viking raids had haunted the English imagination. Long ships on the horizon, churches burning, and silver vanishing. By the late 900s, those nightmares had mostly faded. Kings like Alfred, Ethelstan, and Edgar had pushed the invaders back. A semblance of peace had returned, but it was temporary. By the time Sweyn Forkbeard came of age, the Viking world had changed. The old raiders had now become proper kings, of Denmark, Norway, and even parts of Ireland and the Baltic. And among them, Sweyn stood out, ambitious, ruthless, and ready to be a true king himself. He overthrew his own father, Harald Bluetooth, to claim the Danish throne, possibly driving him into exile and death. He crushed rival Jarls, consolidated power at home, and built a kingdom strong enough to project force across the sea. In short, Sweyn was now a chess player in the old world of axemen. He understood that fear of raids could be more useful even than the raids themselves, that terror properly managed could win him tribute, loyalty, or even kingship. He had the instincts of a pirate, but the patience of a monarch. Sweyn's feud with England was escalated by blood on England's hands. In 1002, King Ethelred the Unready, cornered by fear and internal pressure from political rivals, ordered a preemptive strike, the massacre of Danish settlers living in England. This St. Brice's Day massacre that we already learned about in the section on Ethelred was meant to send a warning message, but it instead just lit the fuse. Among the dead, according to legend, was Gunhild, a Danish noblewoman and possibly Sweyn's sister, and her death may have added a touch of personal rage to Sweyn's already existing political justifications for his invasions. In any case, England was not just a wealthy neighbor anymore. It was a kingdom with a debt to pay, and Sweyn had come to collect. He invaded once and then year after year. He burned cities, he demanded tribute, and England paid. The Danegeld, originally a desperate bribe, became a regularly paid protection racket. But submission only invited more. By the end of the decade, Sweyn's raids had become a full campaign. He wasn't just taking silver anymore, he was testing England's very will to fight. The answer by now was clear. Ethelred's court was fractured, his nobles were unreliable, and his kingdom was just tired. In the year 1013, Sweyn made his final move. He arrived with a fleet, but he didn't land alone. Sweyn first gathered support in the north and east in the old Danelaw, a region still shaped by decades of Scandinavian settlement and law. These were towns and communities with Danish roots, Danish customs, and in many cases, existing Danish loyalties. So to them, Sweyn wasn't a foreign invader, he was a rightful king, or at least a preferable one to the floundering Ethelred. Local leaders, weary of Ethelred's instability and eager to avoid more bloodshed, offered Sweyn allegiance. Some saw him as a return to order, while others simply saw the writing on the wall. So Sweyn's conquest wasn't all fire and fear. There was also an element of acceptance. And in a seismic moment, for the first time since the Viking Age began, Sweyn Forkbeard, a Danish king and a Viking conqueror, was accepted as king of England. And then he died. Just 5 weeks after his conquest, Sweyn collapsed, suddenly and unexpectedly. His son Knut was in England as well, but some of the nobles had other ideas. They invited Ethelred, now in exile, to return. Sweyn had conquered the island, but he couldn't hold it. Still, he had shown that England could be taken, and it wouldn't be the last time. The crown, already cracked by infighting, could then be snapped into by force. Sweyn opened the door for a new dynasty, one his own son, Knut, would also become a part of. And while the crown was obtained by conquest, his rule was popular among many of the locals, especially those with Danish heritage themselves. But Sweyn's sudden death reopened this same question that keeps coming back. Who would rule England? The Danes had their answer. The English first turned back to Ethelred, but would soon rally around his son, the so-called Edmund Ironside.